brought back my good friend Hugh Culver. He's a millionaire speaker, has an amazing business, and today he actually talks about the Friday 15 and how it's so important for business owners to care about this. What is the Friday 15? Stay tuned and find out. I have Hugh Culver on the show. He's been on my show twice. I adore him. He helps experts grow their business bigger, better, faster, right? So he's an author and a speaker and has done amazing things. I'm so excited to have him on the show. Thank you so much for coming on again, Hugh.
Oh, thanks, Jamie. It's always fun.
So when I was asking you what we should talk about, you are like the productivity guy, and I go to you and many people go to you to try and find out the best ways to deal with their productivity. So today I've asked you to come in and talk about what the heck is Friday 15 and how can business owners implement it in their business to really make things more productive for themselves.
Great. Okay. So it's kind of a cornerstone to my work when I'm helping entrepreneurs, because one of the things we know about being an entrepreneur now is that things have really changed. We're overwhelmed. We have all sorts of responsibilities. Some repeat, but most of them are brand new. So they're being thrown at us all the time. So what we need is kind of like a triage to get everything organized, but we also need to get rid of all the stuff that's accumulated during the week. So the first way of thinking about time is in 1 week blocks. Every week is a natural division of time. And so rather than thinking, wow, I've got to get this book finished, or I've got to change my website, or I've got to make more money, you start looking at those goals in 1 week chunks. And every Friday, you dedicate 15 minutes. Now, of course, what we want to do on Friday is pack it in, chill out, do something completely differently. But this discipline will save you and will get you set up for success. So 15 minutes. And the first thing that I do is I look at my plan for the week, and I look at this disaster that started out so beautifully organized. I got a lot of stuff done, but a lot of times my list is longer than when I started. So I look at that and I decide, what is it I can just finish in a couple of minutes? Because sometimes I just need to return a phone call. I need to pay some kind of a bill. I need to go and change something on my blog. Get it done. The second thing I look at is, what is it that I want to move to next week, or I want to either delegate to one of the people that I outsource to, or to my staff person, or that I want to get rid of. So it's like, do it, delegate it, or dump it.
Yeah.
And then the third thing finally is, I want to create a new plan for next week. So one of the mistakes that we often make is that when we create a plan or a list, we put everything in there that we hope to do, and our expectations are too high. So what I encourage people to do is to keep it down to about a dozen things that are really critical for next week. And that's what I call your flight plan. So just like a pilot taking off, I now know where I need to land. So by Friday, those need to be completed.
Okay.
The last thing that I do is I clean up my area. So I put stuff away. I want to get rid of clutter. I want to get rid of these Post-it notes. I want to get rid of those, 3 felt pens and 2 pens and a pencil. Because when I come in, I want to feel successful. And I never feel successful if I'm surrounded by clutter, because clutter, not only is it a distraction, I look at it, I think about it, now I'm distracted. Clutter reminds me I have not completed something. So the last thing I do in those 15 minutes is I clean up my work area. I might even wash it down, so that when I come in on Monday, I feel successful. I've got my flight plan, and I'm ready to go. So that's what I call your Friday 15.
So I have a bunch of questions how to do that, but I'm going to be honest here for a second and show you my horrible, not clean, hold on, desk. Oh no.
Yes.
It's Thursday. So I have like my shake from lunch, and then like I have 6, so I have 1,000 cups, and then just random things over there. And so I agree with you, like cleaning up, usually by Monday morning, usually I sort of have a cleaner desk, or at least things are more better than this. I'm showing you all the dirty secrets right now. But I think that's a key piece, that sometimes when I come in and I just have 1,000 things all over the place, I'm like, I don't even know what these are from. So just having that as a huge piece is so important. Thank you for reminding me on that. But the questions that I have for you in general is like, 15 minutes. Is that enough time to do all of those pieces that you just told me?
Well, you could schedule more time, but you probably won't do it.
Yeah. You know me well, Hugh.
Well, it's true. If you think, well, yeah, I really need half an hour. Yeah, sure, but you're probably unlikely to have a half hour. I think 15 minutes there's something magical about only 15 minutes. I can afford 15 minutes. I do believe you should put it in your calendar as a reoccurring appointment
Okay.
that you should be there. And it's just enough time so that it doesn't feel like a big burden and it's not perfect, but you'll get enough done so it'll feel different. A lot of people tell me they love going to cafes and working out of a coffee shop like I do, or they work really well out of, our friend Jay Bear wrote his whole book in a library. Well, why is that? It's because it's uncluttered. It's organized feeling. They feel successful. They can actually focus. So that's what the 15 minutes is for. It's so that I have a game plan. I feel like I'm on top of what I need to be looking at. I've also gone and looked at my long-term goals, and I've looked at what is stalled out. So what is that project that I haven't looked at in a couple of weeks? Okay, I need to move that in there. And I've cleaned up my work area, and now I'm ready for success.
Okay. Many, many more questions. So number one, how do we not ignore, because I have things in here that are like weekly that I'm like, oh, I know I need to do that. That's the first thing I ignore when things get overwhelmed. Like,
Right.
Oh, I'm not going to do that. So how do we actually pay attention to that and really carve that out, even if it's in our calendar?
Yeah, so I read recently that people have as many as 13 different ways to keep track of things, and they still forget stuff. So I think there should be 3 areas you hold your reminders in.
Okay.
One is the plan for the week. So that's what I'm planning on doing. I've carved that out. Those are identified. The second is a holding zone. So these are great ideas. Like just before you and I started this interview, you gave me a bunch of great ideas. Well, they're not going to go on my plan for the week. They're going to go into a holding zone. And I look at that holding zone, which is in this case for this month, and I will pull from it every Friday when I look at it. And then the third place is my calendar.
I do the exact same thing, and it's so funny because I recently interviewed David Allen, and so I have now mine's all online on my phone. So these are just random. It gets mad at me and turns black, by the way, when I don't go into it, which is always fun. But it's just a holding place because before I had like sheets of paper and things, and I didn't know exactly where things were. So I think that's hugely important.
Yeah. Okay. So you know that you've recorded it, but it's out of your mind.
Yeah.
But you know where to go and get it. So I think that a really important change that people should make is get all of these reminders and little pop-ups and reduce them down to maybe 3 different areas that they're in.
Okay.
And then you know where they are. And I personally don't use pop-ups because I find that usually they're popping up when I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
So what I do is I have a discipline to go and look in those 3 areas to see what I should be working on.
Okay. So then I have another question because I do something very similar to this. I'm all full of questions. That's what I do, right?
That's good.
So what I do, the way I structure things is I do action plans. And so I have a huge whiteboard over here and I show like September what the goals are. And I am an overpacker. So I think I can do way more than I can actually do. So in my to-do list, right? I have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's how I do it. And that works really well. But I realized that I can't get everything done that I put on the day. So I do at least 3 things every day that's important. But like Tuesdays and Thursdays are my coaching and interviewing days. Today's Thursday. And I can't get them done. And then it starts getting to be a mess. So is that when I clean it up on Friday? Or should I be putting less on my week calendar? Just give me some tips on that.
Yeah, both. So one of the tricks that I use that people really get a lot of success out of is once I've identified this is what I want to do this week, I create blocks in my calendar. And right away, it's going to start to tell me when I have a problem. So this morning, I started off with interviews for a speech I'm giving next week.
Okay.
And then I moved into interviews for a speech that's 2 weeks away. And then I moved into strategy calls for a live event. And so each one of those was blocked. But I have to admit that yesterday I didn't get around to one of those, so I had to move it forward. But because it's a block, when I move it on my calendar, I can start to see how I'm doing with my time. When we have things that are just on a list, there's no time associated. And so it looks like it's not very long. Gosh, it's only 8 inches long. But when you do it in reality, right? Each one of those things, you know what it's like, Jamie.
Oh
You say,
yeah.
oh, I'll just change that on my blog. You log in, you change it, you see something else, you change something else. So blocks on your calendar will really help you to be much more organized. But also what they do is they tell you we need to stop and move on.
Mm.
Okay, that's it. You had 25 minutes. You need to stop. You need to move on. And it's a really good discipline to get into because everything can start to become bigger and bigger and bigger. And then suddenly your time evaporates. So
You
start
know
with your plan for the week,
it.
block your calendar, and then get used to stopping when the time's done.
So do we block everything? Like, is your calendar like full, 9 to 5, bam, 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 everything that you have to do?
No, what I block, it's a great question. So I block anything with clients
Okay.
and I block anything that's going to require quite a bit of time for me to think about or work on.
Okay.
So for example, if I need to write a new invitation email for a campaign, that'll be a block of time because I probably need 30 minutes at least. And I might leave the office, go across the street to a coffee shop, work on that, wrap it up, and then come back.
I
So
like that.
it's client work or anything that requires a lot of my time or thinking. Yeah.
So I do that in a little bit of a different way, but I really like the way that you're talking about it. I use the Pomodoro Technique. Have you ever heard of that one?
No.
Oh,
No.
so this is extra. You're not interviewing me, but I'll tell you about it anyway. So I have an app that is a timer for 25 minutes. And the Pomodoro Technique is you do something sole focused, nothing else, 25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break. And then you do
Perfect.
25 more minutes. And so that's sort of what I do, but I think it makes it a lot more sense if I actually have it put in my calendar that that's what I'm going to do then. Instead of going, oh, shoot, I have that app that I haven't used lately. I'm going to use it right now. Okay.
Right.
That's
And
huge.
what it does on the calendar is because again, I want to only be going to a few places to get my instructions. So when I look at the calendar this morning, I go, okay, great. I got to get those interview calls done. And then I got to move to the next ones. Then I got to move to the next ones. And it tells me in a visual way, that's all the time you've got. So be really efficient, get on with it, and move on to the next thing. But not everything's blocked. I also have a list that I'm working from. But I keep everything down to a few basic places that everything's on.
The
Yeah.
stuff that are in your list, is it like duplicated on the calendar and on the list, or is the only the
No.
little things are on the list?
Yeah, so there is one more piece to this whole puzzle,
Okay.
and that is that every night I'm making a short list for the next day of what I do. So I have my flight plan for the week. I look at that, and then I make a short list for the next day. And that's what informs me of everything I've got to get done. So during the day, I'm really only looking at that list for the day, and I'm looking at my calendar.
I love
And
this.
that's it. I don't have any pop-ups or anything. I look at those two, and that's what my job is to cross those things off.
Okay, I love that. How long did that take you to implement? Because I know a lot of
Oh,
people are
you
like,
just lost your sound.
oh, really? Are we good?
Here we are. We're back.
Okay. Technology. So when you
Yep,
do
good
this, when you implement this stuff, how long would it take, especially since you work with clients and teach people how to do this, how long does it take for someone to start really implementing this? Because I know people will go, that's a great idea, I should do it. I'm going to try it for a week, and then it drops off the face of the earth.
Yeah, I think it takes about a week.
Okay.
Like it took me months probably, but it takes about a week because what you have to do, and this is true of all change that we're going to make as entrepreneurs,
Okay.
is first of all, you've got to have a big enough reward. There has to be a reward. Why would I bother changing? It's not that bad. So as entrepreneurs, if you look at your current situation, you say, you know what? I go home frazzled every night. I feel like I'm not keeping up. Every day there's more stuff coming at me. I've got post-it notes all over my wall. Then the reward is to get back to sanity and to start acting successful. That's the trick. You need to act successful. So that's the reward. The second thing is to just start implementing one discipline at a time. So the first thing would be get rid of all of these little reminders. Get rid of all of them and put them into one place and call that your holding zone. And I like to organize it month by month. Someone says,
Ooh.
hey, there's a great book to read. I go, great, thank you. Holding zone. I'm not putting it anywhere that's current. It's in a holding zone. Someone says, wow, you should go check out this website. You should go and watch this movie. You should go and, listen to this guy's recording. I go holding zone. And then, so I have a holding zone. I have my flight plan. I have my calendar, and I have my plan for the day. So get everything organized. And then the next thing would be to start the Friday 15. Every Friday, just say, okay, I got 15 minutes. What can I do? And at first, you'll notice you can't get a lot done. It won't be enough time.
Okay,
You
thank
can't
you.
reorganize your shelves. You can't reorganize your filing, but you'll feel better on Monday for those 15 minutes. You know,
I
it's
appreciate that.
really all about acting successful and having a reward for that extra work that you're going to put in. Because that's what motivates us.
I love that. And sometimes entrepreneurs don't even realize how much they're getting done. Like if you go on Friday and you're like, oh wow, I did get all that stuff done. There's actually a great website called idonethis.com that I signed up for. So every day I talk about what that got done instead of all the stuff I still have to do, which is, if used on my whiteboard, a little ridiculous. So being able to recognize that is huge, and having that on Friday and really going through what worked and what didn't work is really, really important.
Yeah, well, it's one of the things, you know, it's a double-edged sword. We are entrepreneurs because we love to start things, but most entrepreneurs will admit they're not really good at the rest. They love to start, but they're not really good at the systems and the habits. But what I've discovered is that using the fact that you're an entrepreneur as an excuse won't serve you.
You get a hand clap on that one. That's a good one.
I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm self-employed or whatever. That won't help you. What you have to do is you have to start thinking successfully. You have to think like, well, what would it be like if I was the CEO of a company? Would I be allowed to get away with this? No, because people would be coming in my office. They'd be looking at this. They'd be going, oh man, what, did a bomb go off? So you need to act more successful and have a reward for doing that. And the reward for me is, you know, I can go home and I know everything's in place. I know I have a home for things. And if I need to work at home, well, I've identified one or two things I'm going to work on when I go home, and that's it. I'm not playing around and searching and all that sort of stuff.
Trying to figure it out, because then time escapes you. Awesome. This is great, Hugh. I really appreciate it. Where can we find more about you online?
Sure. So they should go to expertsenterprise.com. Experts Enterprise. There's videos, there's resources. They can learn a lot more.
You have an awesome podcast. Everyone should check it out. I really appreciate it, Hugh. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jamie. My pleasure.